She stood at the bottom of the stairs, and for the first time she hesitated. It wasn't pain, not exactly. It was something deeper, like her legs no longer belonged to her. Have you ever felt that, like your body is slowly slipping away? Not all at once, not in a dramatic collapse, but in the quiet moments. When rising from a chair feels like climbing a mountain, when walking across the room takes more will than it used to. If you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you've likely noticed it too, that creeping weakness. The moments that used to feel automatic now feel like effort. But here's what no one tells you. It's not just aging. It's not just how it goes. There are reasons behind it, and there are ways to take your strength back. There's a woman named Mary. She thought her independence was slowly fading. Until one morning, she made a different choice. And what happened after might just change how you think about your own legs, so breathe with me for a moment. Because what you're about to hear could be the difference between sitting back and stepping forward again. The morning light spilled through the window. Mary sat on the edge of her bed, lacing up her walking shoes, just like she did every morning. Her coffee was still warm on the nightstand. The birds outside were chirping, same as always. But something felt different. She stood up and took 2 steps toward the stairs and stopped. Not because she forgot something, not because she heard a sound, but because her legs didn't answer her the way they used to. They felt foreign, heavy, as if the strength had been quietly leaking out of her body drop by drop for years. She reached for the handrail, her fingers tightening in a grip she didn't recognize. She climbed that first step, then the next. By the time she reached the 5th, her thighs were shaking, her breath shallow, and for the first time, Mary, 67, retired teacher, proud grandmother, felt afraid of her own body. She sat back down, stunned, not from exhaustion, but from realization. When did this happen? How did something so simple, climbing stairs, become a mountain? She hadn't been in an accident, she hadn't been sick, she just aged. And for the first time, she saw what that meant. Aging had been an idea, a concept. Now it was in her knees, in her balance, in the tremble she couldn't ignore. But here's the truth: Mary didn't know that morning. She wasn't alone. And she wasn't powerless. Across the country, in living rooms and kitchens, at grocery store parking lots and quiet bedrooms, there are millions of people just like Mary, sensing the shift, worrying what comes next. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you felt that tiny panic rising when standing too quickly, or that quiet embarrassment when your body hesitated in public. But here's what changed everything for Mary. She didn't accept it. She got curious. And curiosity became her lifeline. She asked the question most people are afraid to ask: why am I getting weaker? And more importantly, what can I do about it? That question became a door. And what she discovered behind it was not just science. It was hope. It was strategy. It was strength, real strength, returning day by day. So let's walk through that door with her, and the first thing we'll find is something called sarcopenia, not a scary word, but a silent one. And it may already be living in your muscles, quietly waiting to be noticed. That morning wasn't just about stairs, it was about something deeper. A quiet loss that had been happening inside Mary's body for decades long before she ever noticed it. It has a name: sarcopenia. It sounds technical, almost forgettable. But it might be the single biggest reason why so many people lose their strength after 50. Sarcopenia is not a disease. It's a slow erosion, a gradual thinning of muscle fibers, a shrinking of strength, a soft weakening that begins as early as your 30s. But after 60, it speeds up. And unless we actively fight it, it keeps going. Until one day you wake up and stairs feel impossible. But here's the part that no one talks about. This process isn't written in stone. It's not just part of aging. It's a battle you can fight and win. Mary didn't know this, of course, not at first. She just knew her legs felt different, foreign. But as she researched, she discovered something powerful. That muscle is alive. It responds. Even in your 60s, 70s, 80s, your muscles are listening. They can grow, they can strengthen, they can come back. All they need is the right invitation. For Mary, that invitation came in the form of resistance. not resistance to change but resistance bands. Light dumbbells, simple bodyweight moves that at first felt awkward, but after a week she could rise from a chair more easily. After 2 weeks she could walk longer before needing to rest. By the 3rd week she felt like herself again, and all of it started with understanding sarcopenia. The first step to healing is naming the thing that's hurting you, so let's name it now. Sarcopenia steals strength, but strength can be stolen back. You don't need a gym, you don't need a trainer, you just need to move with purpose, and to feed those muscles like they matter, because they do. Mary also learned that protein, real, consistent, daily protein, was her secret weapon: eggs in the morning, lentils and grilled chicken for lunch. A protein shake in the evening when she didn't feel like cooking. Simple, intentional, effective, and guess what? Her legs responded. They remembered. Because deep down, your body always remembers movement. It craves it. And the moment you begin again, it listens. And if you've ever stood in front of your own stairs and wondered why they feel taller than before, know this: it's not too late. It's not irreversible. It's just sarcopenia. And you have the power to stop it, right where it stands. So if you've ever felt that quiet betrayal of your own strength, I want to invite you to try one small movement today. Maybe it's standing from a chair 10 times, maybe it's a 5-minute walk around the block, because that's where it starts. That's where Mary started. And that's where you can start too. But there's something else Mary didn't expect. Even with movement and nutrition, her legs still felt off. And the reason why had nothing to do with muscles at all. John never used to think about his legs. He was the kind of man who walked everywhere: grocery store, post office, Sunday market. No cane, no limp, just rhythm. But over the past year, something changed. He couldn't quite explain it. At first, it wasn't pain, it was more like a disconnection. Like walking on pillows, or like the floor was too far away. And one day, while stepping off the curb outside his favorite diner, he didn't feel the ground. His foot landed, but the message didn't reach his brain in time. He stumbled, grabbed a mailbox, and stood there, confused. That was the first time John, 72, heard the word neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy, to be exact. A condition that affects millions, especially those over 60. It's not about the muscles. It's about the nerves. The messengers between your brain and your legs. When they're healthy, you move with ease. When they're damaged, it's like trying to walk in the dark. John had no idea his nerves were struggling. He didn't have diabetes. He ate relatively well. But what he didn't know was that his B12 levels had dropped over time, and his nerves were quietly starving. Vitamin B12 is like electricity for your nervous system. And as we age, we often absorb less of it. Some medications make it worse. Some stomach issues interfere. And before you know it, your legs feel numb, or tingly, or just weak. The good news: nerves can heal, not overnight, but with time, with the right support. John's doctor caught the deficiency early. He started B12 supplements. He added more fish, more eggs, and fortified cereals to his morning routine. Little by little, the pillows beneath his feet became firmer. His balance returned. And with it, his confidence. Because nerve weakness isn't just a medical issue, it's a trust issue. When you can't trust your own legs, you shrink your world: fewer walks, fewer stairs, fewer chances to feel alive. But with the right steps, checking your B12, managing conditions like diabetes, and staying aware of what your body is saying, you can reclaim that trust. So if your legs feel off, if you've noticed tingling or numbness or weakness without reason, this isn't just age. It could be your nerves asking for help. And like John, you can listen, you can respond, you can heal. But not all leg weakness comes from the nerves. Some of it comes from the blood that should be feeding your legs, but isn't. Dorothy used to walk 2 miles every morning. It was her ritual, her release, her time. But over the last few months, something started happening. She'd make it halfway around the block and her calves would burn. Her thighs would ache. A tight, cramping sensation would crawl up her legs like a vice, and she'd have to stop, catch her breath. Wait, she thought maybe it was dehydration, or maybe she was just getting older. but the pain didn't come from effort. It came from something much deeper inside her arteries. It's called peripheral artery disease, or PAD. A condition where the arteries that feed your legs become narrow, clogged with plaque, and unable to deliver the oxygen your muscles crave when you move. Think of your blood vessels like garden hoses. When they're open and free, water flows easily. But pinch the hose, and suddenly, everything struggles. Your legs, your strength, your movement. All become victims of that slow squeeze. Dorothy had never smoked, but she did have high blood pressure for years, and cholesterol that never quite stayed down. She never thought it would affect her legs until the morning she couldn't finish her usual route. Her doctor ran a few simple tests, an ankle brachial index, a Doppler scan. And sure enough, her circulation had slowed. But here's the miracle: circulation can improve with movement, with diet, with medication if needed, and most importantly, with walking. Yes, walking. It sounds strange, walking when walking causes pain, but supervised, gradual walking programs have shown incredible results for people with PAD. Dorothy began slowly, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes rest. Her legs protested at first, but with each step she was pushing back against the blockage, training her vessels to adapt, to open, to flow. Week by week she went farther. By month 2, she was walking a mile again, without stopping, because pain doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes it means grow. But not blindly, smart growth, guided growth, growth backed by awareness. She also changed her plate: more leafy greens, more fiber, less processed food. And she started her mornings with a simple rule: walk before worry. She said it gave her back more than blood flow, it gave her rhythm, confidence, vitality. If you felt heaviness in your legs, or cramps when walking that disappear with rest, don't ignore it. It could be more than tiredness. It could be PAD, and catching it early changes everything. Ask your doctor. Get tested. Because movement should be freedom, not fear. And for Dorothy, that freedom returned with every step. But strength isn't just about muscles or blood. Sometimes it's about the light you carry inside your body and what happens when that light starts to fade. It started with a stumble on the porch, then a misstep on the kitchen tile, little things. But when it kept happening, Sarah began to worry. Not about her shoes, not about her balance, but about something she couldn't quite name. Her body felt dimmer, like the engine was fine, but the fuel was wrong. What she didn't realize was that a missing vitamin was changing everything. Vitamin D, often called the sunshine vitamin, but it's more than that. It's strength in a molecular form. And as we age, our ability to absorb and convert vitamin D drops, even with sun, even with food. And that drop affects muscles, nerves, bones. It affects balance. It affects confidence. Sarah thought vitamin D was just about bones. She had no idea it was connected to her muscle power, to her fall risk, to her entire sense of control. After one too many close calls, her doctor ran a routine blood test and found her levels had plummeted. Not dangerously, but significantly. The solution: sunlight, food, and when needed, supplements. Sarah started spending 10 minutes each morning on her porch, letting the sun hit her arms, her face, her chest. No phone, no distraction, just light. She added salmon to her weekly meals, egg yolks, fortified milk, and a small daily vitamin D pill that sat beside her toothbrush. Simple, intentional. Within weeks, she noticed something subtle. She didn't wobble when standing. She didn't fatigue halfway up the stairs. She felt steady, the kind of steady that lets you exhale. Because sometimes, weakness isn't dramatic, it's silent. And vitamin D is one of those silent heroes, often overlooked, often missing, but deeply essential. So if you've been falling more, feeling weaker, losing balance without explanation, don't just blame age. Ask about vitamin D. It's a small thing, but small things change everything. And the brighter Sarah felt inside, the more she wanted to move again. To engage, to live. But there was one habit still holding her back, one so common, so accepted. We barely notice it anymore until we try to stand up after hours of sitting and realize we've been disappearing slowly without even moving. Tom always considered himself active, at least in his own way. He wasn't running marathons. But he walked to the mailbox every day, he stood while brewing coffee, and sometimes he'd do light stretches during commercials. But lately, getting up from his favorite recliner felt like pushing a car uphill. His legs didn't respond the way they used to, they felt sluggish, like they had been unplugged. And in a way they had, not by disease. Not by trauma, but by stillness. The kind we don't notice because it's everywhere in the hours spent watching the news, in long car rides, in dinner chairs, doctors' offices, waiting rooms, and quiet mornings with nothing to do. It's called sedentary living. And it's one of the most underestimated threats to strength in aging. When muscles aren't used, they forget, they shrink, they soften. It's the use it or lose it effect, but slower, quieter, deceptively gentle. Tom wasn't lazy, he just got comfortable, and comfort over time can become captivity. But here's the twist: you don't need intense workouts to reverse it. You need movement. Purposeful, regular, consistent movement. Tom started by setting an alarm every hour, not for anything dramatic, just to stand, stretch, walk around the house. Every 2 hours, he'd walk the hallway. At first, it felt silly. But after a few days, he noticed something surprising. He wasn't grunting to rise from his chair anymore. His knees didn't crack like before, he felt reconnected. And that's the secret. Sedentary life disconnects us from our own body, but movement reintroduces us. He also found joy in simple activities, dancing in the kitchen while cooking, walking the dog just one more block, standing while folding laundry. Small shifts that rewired his day and reawakened his legs, because motion is memory. Your body remembers what it means to be strong, it just needs the chance to try again. And yes, rest is important. But too much rest becomes retreat, so if your body has been whispering, if only we moved a little more, listen, not with guilt, with grace, with curiosity, and try this: stand during one commercial break, take a phone call while walking. Do heel raises while brushing your teeth, because the antidote to losing strength is using it. Tom didn't change everything. He changed one thing, and that made movement easier the next day, which made walking farther possible the next week, which made strength real again. But not all obstacles are invisible. Some come wrapped in pain. And when every step hurts, even the idea of movement feels like too much. Linda used to love gardening. Her backyard was her sanctuary. Rows of roses, soft soil beneath her hands, the joy of movement. But recently, just bending down to pull a weed sent a jolt through her knees. The kind that lingers, the kind that says, maybe not today. At first, she ignored it, thought it would pass. But it didn't. And soon, she found herself saying no to walks, no to stairs, no to things she used to love, not because she wanted to stop, but because it hurt to keep going. This is how osteoarthritis creeps in, a slow, persistent erosion of the cartilage that cushions our joints. Especially the ones that carry us, knees, hips, ankles. When the padding thins, bones rub, inflammation rises, pain flares, and suddenly every movement feels like a decision. For Linda, this created a dangerous loop. A pain led to rest. Rest led to weakness. Weakness made pain worse. It's a spiral that so many fall into, not because they're giving up, but because they're trying to survive. But here's what Linda learned: movement is not the enemy. It's the medicine, not high impact, not punishing, but gentle, deliberate, consistent. She started with water aerobics. The pool held her weight. The pain didn't follow her there. Then she added cycling on a stationary bike, short bursts at first. Later, longer sessions with music, and slowly her knees stopped shouting. They started listening. Then, strengthening. Osteoarthritis doesn't disappear, but it can be managed. And when managed well, it doesn't have to dictate your days. Linda also learned the value of muscle. Strong muscles support weak joints. They act like braces from within. So she added resistance training, nothing intense, just slow, mindful squats while holding onto a chair, leg lifts on the bed, heel slides on the couch, and with every move, her fear melted. Because pain had made her believe her body was broken, but movement reminded her it was still hers, still capable. still worthy of care. And there's one more piece. Support not just from family, but from professionals, physical therapists, arthritis classes, peer groups, community matters. Because the pain of osteoarthritis isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's the grief of what was once easy, and the quiet hope that maybe one day it can be easy again. Linda is still gardening. She kneels on a pad now. Moves slower, but with intention. And most days she smiles while pruning her roses because she knows what it cost her to kneel again and what it gave her back. But not all weakness is from disease or damage sometimes. It's side effects hiding in plain sight tucked inside a bottle with your name on the label. Robert always prided himself on his strength, a retired firefighter. He'd carried people down ladders, moved furniture without blinking even at 69. He looked solid. But something was off. His legs felt heavy, slow, like walking through water. He hadn't changed anything. Same routine, same diet. So when his legs started failing him, he felt betrayed, confused. Then a thought struck him. Could it be the pills? He'd been on statins for years prescribed to manage cholesterol. They worked. His numbers looked great. But no one told him that for some people, statins can cause something called myopathy, a weakening of the muscles, especially in the legs. He wasn't imagining it, it was real. And it was in the fine print. Robert's doctor reviewed everything, ran labs, adjusted his medication. And slowly, the fog in his legs began to lift. But it wasn't just statins. Other medications, like corticosteroids, some blood pressure drugs, even certain antidepressants, can all carry side effects that impact strength. And because it's so gradual, so quiet, people blame age when the culprit might be chemical. This doesn't mean stop taking your meds, absolutely not. But it does mean ask questions, track patterns, pay attention to new fatigue, new weakness, new pain, bring it to your doctor. Say, I've noticed this since starting that. That one sentence could change everything. Robert didn't stop his treatments, he just adapted them. He switched to a different statin, lowered the dose, added CoQ10, an enzyme some doctors recommend to offset muscle effects. And most importantly, he moved. He walked every morning, did leg presses at the gym with his grandson, kept a journal of how his body felt each week. Because the answer isn't just in medicine, it's in relationship with your body and with your care team. No pill should cost you your legs, and sometimes strength is not in lifting, but in listening. So if your legs have felt weaker, if nothing else explains it, check your cabinet. Check your routine, you might find your answer there. But for some people, the weakness doesn't come gradually. It comes all at once. Sudden, sharp, and everything changes in a single heartbeat. Joan was just reaching for a cup, not rushing, not distracted. Just one small step to the side and then, snap, her hip gave out. She didn't fall hard, she didn't even feel clumsy. But she was on the floor, unable to rise. Her bones had betrayed her. The X-ray showed what she feared, a fracture. The result of something she never felt coming: osteoporosis. The silent thief. It weakens bones quietly, slowly, until one ordinary movement becomes catastrophic. Joan, 66, had no history of fractures. She walked every day, took her vitamins, most of them anyway. But no one had checked her bone density in years, and like millions of others, she had been losing bone strength without knowing it. When bones become porous, fragile, they don't hurt. They don't warn you, they just break. And after that, everything changes. For Joan, it wasn't just the fracture, it was the fear, the hesitation. The loss of confidence in her own body. Every stair felt dangerous, every doorway a potential trap, and yet with support she rebuilt. She started physical therapy in the hospital bed, simple leg lifts, isometric holds. Then, standing with help, walking with a frame, later walking on her own again. She also learned what she could have done sooner: vitamin D. Calcium-rich foods, yogurt, leafy greens, almonds, weight-bearing exercises like walking, light resistance training. And yes, bone density scans, covered by Medicare, quick, non-invasive, powerful in what they reveal. Joan now sees her doctor every 6 months. She takes prescribed medication to preserve bone mass, and she tells every friend over 60, get your bones checked. Because prevention is quieter than recovery and far less painful. But even more than prevention, Joan found her strength again through trust, trusting her body again, trusting the process. Because fractures don't just break bone, they break momentum. And rebuilding momentum is the hardest part, but it's possible, with intention. With help, with love for yourself, your body, your future. And today Joan walks to her book club, carries her own groceries. And when someone asks what changed her life, she smiles and says, taking care of my bones took care of the rest. But there's one more kind of weakness, one that arrives suddenly, devastatingly, not from the legs, but from the brain. It was a normal Tuesday. Henry was washing dishes, listening to the radio, humming a tune from the 70s, and then his arm slipped. His leg buckled, the sponge dropped, and everything faded to black. When he woke, he was in a hospital bed. Doctors were speaking softly. One word kept repeating: stroke. A cerebrovascular accident. It sounded technical, cold. But the effect was painfully real. His right leg no longer moved like it used to, his balance gone. His strength halved in one moment. His world had changed. Stroke strikes suddenly, when blood flow to the brain is interrupted. And when that flow stops, so do the signals, especially to muscles, limbs, movement. For Henry, that meant learning to walk again, not just physically, but emotionally. Every step was a question. Will my leg hold? Will I fall? Will I ever be normal again? The early days were the hardest. Frustration, tears, grief for a body that felt unfamiliar. But something shifted in him. One morning, his granddaughter came in with a picture she drew. It showed him standing tall, holding her hand, smiling. He looked at it for a long time, then whispered, "Let's try again." And that became his mantra. Let us try again. He worked with therapists, speech, physical, occupational. He practiced stepping over lines taped on the floor. He used a walker, then a cane. He stumbled. He sat down. He got back up. Because strength after stroke isn't just in the muscles. It's in the will, in the belief that healing is possible, even slowly, even imperfectly. He changed his diet, less salt, more greens. He took his medications faithfully. He monitored his blood pressure daily. And he learned the signs: sudden confusion, numbness, blurry speech. Because stroke prevention is just as critical as stroke recovery. Henry also leaned on people, neighbors, friends, a local stroke support group. Because no one heals alone. Today, Henry walks with a slight limp, but he walks, he cooks, he gardens. And every evening he takes his granddaughter's hand, walks to the porch, and watches the sunset. She still keeps that drawing on the fridge, because sometimes strength doesn't mean perfect. It means possible. It means persistent. And if you've ever felt like one moment stole your strength, know this: there is still more ahead, more recovery, more joy, more steps. And now that we've walked through every challenge, it's time to ask the most important question: what will you choose to do, starting today?